Well, hello, I'm Nathan Judah. I'm here with Liam Keane. Liam, we're going to look at the game yesterday, just briefly. Spurs 2, Wolves 0. What did you make of it? I mean, much changed side. Nuno kind of hinted towards that in his press conference. I think a little bit of rest, a little bit of rotation, and also keeping some of the players kind of a little bit in the tank for the Euros, which you can understand. Do you think it was the right decision in hindsight?
Probably not with some of them. I'm surprised Ryan Aït-Nouri was rested. I don't think Semedo or Hover had a particularly good game. Neves, I can understand he puts into that category, doesn't he, of players who are likely to go to the Euros, going to have a lot of overload, a lot of games in the next few weeks and months. So I can understand him. I expected Adama to come in, things like that. And, he was probably right to give Vitinha and Gibbs-White a game still as well, considering their performance against Brighton. And, we'll come on to their performance against Spurs, but I don't think it was particularly justified, really. So, for me, it would mainly be, I think, Aït-Nouri and then perhaps Kilman as well. I thought he was unlucky not to stay, because I thought Kilman had a really good game against Brighton.
Yeah, look, it was always going to be a tough task, keeping Kane, Son quiet. But I thought in the first half, they did relatively well, especially the likes of Conor Cody, I thought was superb on the day.
Yeah, Connor was the man of the match for me from a Wolves point of view. It wasn't particularly hard, I suppose, at the end of the day. But he marshalled the defence really well. He obviously made those 2 blocks on the line. I saw some people calling for a foul on Patricio from Kane, but for me, he's got to be stronger there. Get it out of your box, punch it, go through the man, do something and get rid of the ball. So, he's made a few massive moments in that first half that has stopped Spurs from scoring. As I said, marshalled the defence well, commanded his area well. Looked like he was going to, drag a few of his teammates through to half-time at 0-0. And then one long ball from Højbjerg over the top, and it's caught the whole team out. And frankly, at this level, it isn't good enough. Nuno said the same after the game, that one ball like that, they should be able to deal with it, whether it's someone pressing high up, whether it's a midfielder dropping in and receiving the second ball, or whether it's just one of the defenders getting to it before Kane does. Someone's got to get there first, someone's got to stop it, and that was a big turning point.
You mentioned Vitinha and Morgan Gibbs-White, 2 people who have impressed recently, and I guess another good chance for them to show what they can do. You feel like both of them missed that opportunity, especially kind of Vitinha. I think Morgan Gibbs-White, a lot of people, and quite rightly, thought that when Vitinha went off, Gibbs-White comes into probably his preferred role, more central, and then he got taken off as well, which, he looked disappointed at the time. You can understand that, because I think his performance was definitely, he looked a lot more comfortable when he was moved inside.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. He, in a way, he's been a victim of circumstance a little bit. He's been pushed out wide. Podence, obviously, is having surgery this morning on the groin issue. Neto's out injured, for example. So he's been pushed out wide. He was trying. There was a lot of effort there. He was making runs. He was receiving the ball and trying to turn inside and feed Vitinha, but it wasn't quite working for him. Defensively, he was struggling as well. So Semedo was sort of one-on-one with Bale a lot of the time and struggling. So as you say, when he came inside in that second half, once Vitinha went off, he looked a lot more comfortable. But the issue there was they stuck with the shape and they pushed Fabio Silva to the left, and that didn't work for me either. No. So yeah, for Morgan, it was he worked hard, he tried, but it didn't work for him. Mainly, I think, because of the position, as you say. With Vitinha, it was just a lacklustre showing from him. Really, he received on the ball. Well, when he did receive the ball, which was rare, he received it way too deep. Received it with his back to the players and facing his own defence, and was losing the ball. He was just, every time he was getting it, he was just very cheaply giving it away, and that was unlike him from what we've seen in the last few games. That was more akin to what we'd seen of him earlier in the season. I think with him, he's still young. It's going to be a consistency issue, but if he wants to stay here permanently, he's going to have to do that more often than not.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've got a big summer ahead and they've got some big decisions to make, because, we talk about a lot of the areas that Wolves need to strengthen. But, if you are going to sign the likes of Vitinha, who is probably, because he's a young lad, is going to have some really good games. He's going to have some poor games, the same as Ryan Aït-Nouri was on the bench yesterday. And yet, these guys aren't cheap. This isn't £8 or £10 million a pair. This is £35 million plus we're talking about. So, it's a lot. And I know Nuno says that decisions are made from training and from just their character around the dressing room and performances on the pitch. at the same time, I think if you're playing a Premier League game, that's when that's when you know if a player can do the business. So that's a lot of money, and these next two games could be crucial for both players.
100%. I think with Vitinha, a big point as well is there are certain types of games and atmospheres I think that suit him better. I think the game against Spurs, where Wolves don't have a lot of the ball, are sitting in their shape, sitting deeper, trying to receive the ball and counter-attack with Adama, which worked on occasion. That didn't suit Vitinha's game because, as I said, he was receiving the ball way too deep. He had his back to the attacking phases of play, and he wasn't able to implement his game further up the field, which is the whole point of his position, really, isn't it? So, as you say, these next two games are big for both of them, I think. More so for Vitinha because, of course, he's on loan. With Morgan, of course, he's under contract and he's with the club. So you'd imagine that even if he gets sent out on loan somewhere else, he's got a future. Vitinha, it's an interesting one because it's a really good opportunity to be with Wolves, being the Premier League, isn't it? And so far, it's very much up in the air whether he's taken that opportunity or not. And yesterday, unfortunately, he didn't.
Yeah, Adama Traore was another one who stood out, I thought, and going forward was definitely the most threatening, as you'd expect as well. He's one of the more senior players, I guess. In this lineup, and he did not disappoint. At the same time, Liam, when you've got youngsters, you need your more experienced players to stand out, and João Moutinho kind of delivered a typical João Moutinho display this season, which is pretty lacklustre. Didn't really do much for me. Leander Dendoncker, I do not know what's happened to him, but he is a shadow of the play that we've seen. And these type of players, and I'm sure Moutinho, he's got one more year left on his contract, and if he's at Wolves next season, I don't think he'll be a regular starter, but someone like Leander Dendoncker, what's gone wrong there?
Yeah, I picked those two out as well in my play ratings. I thought they coasted through the game. I don't think it was anything particularly poor in the sense that they didn't give the ball away often, and they won a few battles, a few duels here and there. But in terms of making a difference on the performance or the result, or picking the ball up in dangerous areas and passing it forward with intent, there was nothing there. It was all very comfortable. They coasted through it. Dendoncker's a strange one. It really is, because I do rate him as a player. I think sometimes he seems almost like he's confused as to what position he should be in, because he looked yesterday like a centre half playing centre midfield, which is not the way I've seen him in the past whatsoever. He normally breaks through the lines, will get forward and support. Albeit he did that when there was an extra midfielder in there at times, but. He would break forward, support, and get onto the edge of the box, arrive late into the box. And he didn't do any of that yesterday. It was all very square, would be the best way I could describe it. It was all very lineal passes, left, right, backwards. It was all, Dendoncker the crab yesterday, basically what it was. It was all backwards, all sideways. There was nothing going forward. That's what they missed yesterday in midfield. As I said, very comfortable, coasted through the game. And then at times they were overrun as well. They had Højbjerg, they had Lo Celso. Sissoko and Ndombele when they came on as well. I mean, these are good players. These are players that are getting on the ball, getting in the ball space. And Dele Alli was just dropping into pockets of space in between the defence and the midfield, and just picking the ball up with ease and having no one around him challenging him. So that's what Vitinha wants to do, and Dele Alli was able to do it because Spurs had possession. Spurs were dominating the ball going forward. That's the difference between two teams yesterday that were playing exactly the same system. Of course, Spurs have got very good players, of course they do, but they had possession, they were dominating the ball, they were winning it back, and that was the difference between the two teams.
So a quick turnaround, and they go to Everton on Wednesday night. Liam, still 12th in the table. I think Palace won. I think if they don't do much in these next two games, then they could finish 14th potentially. So they'll want to finish 12th, I'm sure, this season. Everton, their own issues. I mean, they're going for Europe, but a really poor 1-0 defeat to Sheffield United yesterday. So they'll be gunning for a comeback on Wednesday. Do you see more chopping and changing? I think he made 4 changes. Do you see the likes of Neves, maybe Willy Bolly, maybe Kilman coming in on Wednesday night?
I do. I really think we might see Bolly and possibly Marcel both come in. I was surprised not one of them maybe got a few minutes yesterday. I can really see them both coming in. But going forward, there's not many changes they can make, is there? I mean,
Corbiano came on, didn't he? Made
injuries,
his debut. Do you think he might get a few more minutes? Do you think maybe even
potentially,
with Sunday to Sunday they take Fabio out? Maybe they give their last chance to Willian Jose on Wednesday night with a short turnaround with Fabio coming back in on Sunday against Manchester United for the finale.
Yeah, that could be a good point. To be fair, yeah, I think that gives you an opportunity, doesn't it? It's almost a last hurrah for Willian Jose. See how he gets on. That's potential. But you look at the options going forward. There are, with injuries, with Podence and Neto out, they've got very, very limited options. I'd be surprised if we don't see Adama for sure starting. But who else have they got? Coutinho and Gibbs. Well, they're going to have to start at least one of them, aren't they? It's the options are limited because of the squad size and because of injuries, without a doubt. But at the back, yeah, I think Aït-Nouri will be unfortunate not to come back in.
Sure.
But I do feel that Marcel potentially might come in and play left back. We might see Bolly come into centre half as well. I feel like we might see them both, or at least both, get minutes.
You don't think Marcel could come in at centre back? I mean, obviously he's had an illustrious career playing centre back, and we haven't really seen him in that essential yet. It'll be interesting to see if he was fit, and maybe left back, especially the way that Wolves play, is a bit more demanding physically. That if he was to help himself and preserve himself, maybe centre back might be a little bit easier. It's one to maybe more likely with a 5 if they're going to stick with this 4. Then
that's
probably
what I was
not.
going to say. Yeah. I'd like to see him play centre half, but I feel like it's more likely to happen in a 5 than it would be a 4. I think.
All right, better go, Liam, because 11.5 minutes talking about a 2-0 defeat, the peeps won't like it. So, Liam, thank you very much. Spurs 2, Wolves 0 for all the post-match reaction is online now at expressthestar.com.